CCaaS is about orchestrating communication channels and
Right.
not about resolution. That's what the Salesforces and the Microsoft Dynamics and the Oracle CRMs and Zendesk of this world are doing, because they actually have the workflow to actually get to that answer, and
Well,
not the CCaaS vendors.
I don't know. Sorry, that was a lazy point. I think what we're building then, let's me rephrase that, is an ecosystem within which you are going to put the data competency, the workflow competency, and the channel competency, which will
Yes,
be built now these days out of maybe 3 or 4 major blocks.
absolutely. Now I'm fully with you.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. So in that context, I think let's start to move a little bit now into the technology that is enabling that, which has never been better,
Yes.
but also still remember the human challenge that is sitting here.
Yeah.
Because within the concept of being able to even do those things, I mean, we've defaulted, we're still into first in, first out as far as triage and routing is concerned, more often than not. I was talking yesterday to a group and saying, in the simplest of ways, if you have a CRM system that has at least identified your most profitable customers, what does it take to say if that customer phones on a busy Monday morning that they get a message saying, because you're special, you're going to sit at the front of the queue? That's not too technically difficult to orchestrate. And yet the number of times you and I or anybody else could say, yeah, that happens to me, and I've been validated as a loyal customer, is zip. So I come back to my point that some of this remains where we started this discussion on mindset, yeah, and a really willingness to be innovative on behalf of that customer. But the second thing is then the means to orchestrate. And if you go back to what you have just said, and let's take a common thing like, where's my order? Let's make it a simple thing like that. That's relatively simple to figure
Yes.
that out as a journey in terms of the systems you've got to plug in to answer that. It may be fairly simple to also think about the knowledge that you might also need to have to support that, and how you use the channels to get to that outcome. But then you might multiply that contextually by situation. As you say, I might be on a train with no signal. I might actually be doing that as a number of things I need to do before I get back from my lunch hour. So it's a short rather than a longer conversation. It might be that vulnerability wise, I have cognitive issues understanding, and I can only do it in a certain channel, which is not the one that you recommended, back into the FCA duty of care stuff. So
Yes.
suddenly, as a designer, and this is the thing I'm trying to get to, the permutations of my standard journey, if there is such a thing as a standard journey, start to multiply in a significant way. Number one, is that what we're really trying to say here in terms of really meeting customer needs, and really leveraging what is now become a major theme, which is the availability of data in real time to drive that? Let's be generous to the tech and say it can help an awful lot automating and enabling that design. So it's not literally in hard coding, but nonetheless, just holding those permutations as a service designer or as a team starts to become really, really quite challenging. At least that's how I'm imagining it. Have you got any direct experience of the very best out there starting to move up that challenge and starting to master it? Because my experience of hyper personalization remains, dear Martin, would you like a 700-seat call center? Because we're sending you the email since you were the chair of the last conference you were at. And by the way, I really don't need a 700-seater. So forget calling me dear Martin. And by the way, it's spelt with an I, not a Y. But that's
Right.
it.
Right, right. I'll get to some of the interesting examples, but I also just want to, if we get into the tech side of things, then we need to be honest there. The complexity of the IT landscape over the last couple of years, it makes it very hard to transition for organizations in a really customer-centric organization.
Yeah.
And we touched upon contact center as a service, the CCaaS vendors, who are doing voice in a SaaS model, but adding digital channels to it. We have the desktop vendors, the Salesforce and the Microsoft of this world, that are helping the agents get to a resolution with customers. We have digital customer service vendors specifically, like in the beginning there were, or still is out there, companies like eGain, or Gladly or Dixa, or those type of companies that are providing these engagement services. We have the Twilios and the message birds nowadays of this world. So it is also really a very difficult for organizations to really understand what is the best for them to do. And then you have to deal with the fact that I bought something 2 years ago. It's not written off yet. So I need to keep it in my organization for a couple of years before I can actually get into something new. Okay, so company that disrupt markets like fintech organizations. We talked about Lemonade and the insurance company. They start from scratch, and they get from and so they use some of the new tech that is out there, but also the Ubers and the Airbnbs and all of those new type of company. Well, they're not new anymore, but always revolutionary companies that revolutionize. That's easy for them then to say we are getting into something new. So it's hard and always a balance for organizations to understand. Okay, I bought technology a couple of years ago. How can I innovate again? And get into a more effective and efficient way to become more customer centric. That's for a CIO a very difficult aspect to be in. I think that it was already 2014 or 15 or something like that, that a company like Gartner talked about by model being in mode 1 and being in mode 2. Mode 1, having an organization that's keeping the lights on, just keeping your business running, where you also need to start thinking about the discipline to work in innovation as parallel, and most of the time it's only 10% that is working in an innovation in that respect. So we need to do justice to the how quickly the technology has moving forward, and we need to be respectful also to the investment that organizations have done, which they cannot throw out of the window and go for the newest innovation perspective that is out there. So having said that, our company is doing well. Yeah, it was a fun example that I had from what was it? L'Oriel skincare. And they had what was it called again? Skin Genius Mobile, an application, so that you can have a digital experience, really looking into getting a picture and getting an understanding what would be the best skin care for basically for your skin. And then obviously you could also transition to an in-person beauty advisor. You can buy things, of course. You can have it see the moisturing reflected already on your skin and how much it would improve. And obviously there was a whole follow-up in terms of what you can sell and the aftercare and the cross-sell and the upsell possibilities. I thought, okay, you guys are personalizing the way that you're doing things. You're using digital engagement capabilities. It is AI powered because you need to make an assessment of the skin. It is digital sales or online sales orientated. It provides customer service components because they proactively reach out to you again. They do a bit of customer success in terms of upgrading it, or cross-selling and upselling things. So that's where I thought, okay, this sounds like something they are really looking into you as an individual on how you can do things. So using the technology and also providing you with a proper service in that respect. I thought that was an interesting case. that I saw recently somewhere. And yeah, and there are many hospitality use cases also out there with Marriott Hotel and Resorts that have all kinds of bots that allow you to buy theater tickets, but also what was it again? In the shower, where there was one of the windows, you can actually write your notes, and then the notes go on to the screen on the television or something like that. So
Crazy.
it's crazy. It's crazy ideas that they think of, but all to provide a better experience
Yeah, sure.
to a customer. But yeah, those are some of the things that I think that we're seeing right now, which help in doing uber personalization, as you or as you called it, to make use of the technology, but also understand service design, using data to understand preferences, and also be contextual aware of why and how you're doing things. So yeah, more and more companies are getting there in that from that perspective, and in really using the technology to their advantage.
Okay, that's interesting. So skill-wise, let's go down that route then.
Sure.
We're beginning to see some examples that you've just provided now of being able to really leverage the technology for memorable experience. Yeah.
Yes.
In that respect. If we take that maybe back down into more of a customer service environment, and again, we've said, it's quite extraordinary. 40 years in, we've still got so many vendors with so many different moving parts, and actually they're all, to my mind, moving towards the center point. So they begin with a level of excellence, and they try to bulk up to become
absolutely 100%. 100%. Fully agree.
Which leads to some confusion. But the end model, even if it's not finalized, and maybe it never will be finalized because there's always something new coming to the mix, is, to my mind, getting easier and better and more simple, which means we can do more and more remarkable things. And I think the thing that has transformed things from reactive to proactive, from standardized to customized, is the liberation of data, from being historic to being real time, and from being something that is not just noise, but actually is insightful, that can then be automated and trigger next best actions. So, triage routing can suddenly become incredibly sophisticated. You can start to see now, again, of everything that I could and might need to know as a colleague or an advisor, my desktop will then be fed with the relevant things, because in real time, we're tracking that conversation. We understand, and we're seeing benefit from there. We have the moving from being cost center to insight and value center. Again, that insight can all be cherry picked and sent out in real time across those platforms to all the other departments saying, stop this, start this, think about this, or whatever you want. And, it's never been a better time to be an ambitious human being, from my point of view, in that zone, because you really can build some fantastic Lego out of all of that. It really is quite remarkable.
Design should be a competence within a customer experience organization, really understanding how to do it, because I know many boutique firms right now that are providing the CX experience and helping them to design what is possible. And we can leave it like that, but I think it would be wise, giving the role of technology in our lives, given the number of engagement channels that we have, that is a competence that an organization need to have themselves. So, because the variety will grow.
Right.
Well, the variety, well, we always say we want to have the same experience from my village 60 years ago, when I walk into the butcher shop and he knows exactly what I want, or the grocery shop and he knows exactly what he wants. So that hasn't changed, and that's the old stigma that was out there. Only the complexity has exploded in everybody's face.
Right. quite, quite, quite. So actually, linking a couple of things just to start to bring this thing to a set of conclusions is service design. We need to invest in that skill. Nice to have it trialed from externals. Thank you very much. You've convinced me it's important. I'm now going to build it myself. First
Absolutely.
point. Second point is probably as a theme for the next foreseeable future is make it all about simplification in order to make it easier. That's probably the exam question 9 times out of 10. Agreed?
Simplify.
We know from customer feedback where those pain points are. So actually the workflow around enabling that, and then with an agile mindset of test and learn and bringing it on and optimizing it, it's not actually a very difficult thing to accomplish it. And one would find that probably like weeds grow in a garden, we're on a continuous cycle of refreshing the simplification of all our journeys because they become complicated because we rush at it too fast, we do shortcuts, and from the customer's point of view, the outcome becomes obscured. Yeah. So service design also, I think, needs to have authority because fundamentally we're changing things which are very dear to us as organizations. And many people have vested interest in things being in a certain way. So I would imagine if I had my little ninja team of service designers, maybe distributed across journeys or whatever, if I was the most senior person in CX, I probably want them to be very close to me because they're going to be having to make some difficult calls and will need to have a lot of sponsorship to enable some of those probably quite difficult decisions about let's really fundamentally change some of these things. Because let's face it, a lemonade is only an opportunity to do something properly.
Yes, exactly. So for me, in maybe 5 words, it is about data-driven, simplifying, and personalizing the experience, the journeys that we set out there for organizations. And I think we're seeing this already in our today's world. My children are between 19 and 24 at the moment, and they don't want to own things. They just want to hire
Yes.
things. The owning is not that important anymore. They want to simplify things in terms of what they are using in way of communication that is out there. They want to have a better work-life balance in that respect. That's that whole generation Z aspect that is out there. And I think that in at least our working lifetime over the last 30 years, and we overcomplexed elements. There were too many channels. There was too many advancements in technology, and I think that the next generation will use that also, therefore, in a different way. And apply it in a better way than the whole multitude and the overload, the overwhelming elements that technology brought us at the moment. And so therefore I'm thinking that we're starting to be at a tipping point where we will start making things easier again for us.
And that language of orchestration strikes me as being massively important. We've said that actually there's no single piece out there yet that does the whole ecosystem, but we're trying to bring together the data, the workflow, and the communication channels at the very least in a way that allows us to orchestrate and deliver experiences that suit individual situations of individual customers. Ideally, we're working towards that end. The skill to do that is service design. And that skill increasingly should be brought in and embedded right in the heart of what we're doing, because put the other way around, it's this process by which we ingest the new value of technology and turn it into something that the customer benefits and we also benefit, because presumably simplification also delivers lower operational cost and smarter outcomes and happier customers, the easiest things to say. And that's really something I don't think has become a central engine room yet. to the point that you were making, and probably represents the next phase. Because if we don't do that, we end up simply buying more technology and getting less happy, and customers again get less impressed with what we're attempting to do with them. So we've gone a long way round in terms of exploring this, Brian. Thank you
I
for
love that
patience.
summary. Thank you.
Okay.
That was a good summary.
So as a postscript, before we finally say goodbye, what do you think boards most need to adopt? A mindset, a point of view? Because you've said something very important, which is, ironically, as I get older and more experienced, I'm given the reward of running an organization. But trouble is, I'm further away from probably where my emerging customers are at. That's a fundamental problem with mindset and comprehension. What should I be doing then to enable the relevance of my organization as new generations turn up and have different fundamental expectations?
Well, that was one of the elements which I find very interesting at CM.com, where I was, is listen to that younger generation and also give them responsibility. Yeah. Because they will use the tech in a different way. They are different. They have a different mindset on society that is out there today. They want much more balance. Well, some of the stuff that we already discussed. I find that organizations who give room to younger people to explore, but also decide how to do things in a certain way, at least keeps you on your toes in terms of innovation, yes. Staying alive, or staying in contact with different generations in that respect.
And at the very least, reverse mentoring.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. Reverse mentoring is a good word. I love that. Yeah, absolutely.
Brian, it has been an absolute pleasure. It really has. Thank you so much. I've been looking forward to this conversation forever, and you've delivered in spades. It's been thoroughly good fun. So again, thank you so much.
Thank you also so much for having me, and I always have enjoyed our conversations, and given the fact that we go from one thing to another, and it's always about content. I'd like that very much, and looking forward to seeing or hearing from you again.
Thank you.